Good morning. Hello, everybody. I'm not going to copy anybody else's opening. Nope, not going to do it. But good morning to you all on a lovely Friday morning. And nice to see Greg back in his seat early in the morning with the Amazings. Sitting there trying to get enough money to buy the New York Mets. We got Dale Donkey Meckert is here to give us the final results from Iowa. Ohio Angels fan, SP fan, Timothy Myhooker, Unholy Toledo, and how's the sound, by the way? Just want to make sure the sound is good. Okay, and remember, we start at 9 o'clock. There it is. Welcome aboard, everybody. We don't open up until 9 o'clock. What I do a couple of minutes before 9 is I make sure the sound is good, say hello to everybody, and away we go, because this is one freaking day. We got the Mookie Betts trade, and if you if you haven't heard, daily fantasy sports is in big time trouble, and we'll get to that in 1 second. If you have Mookie Betts and you're in an AL only league and you thought you lost him, and you went out and picked up another player and put Mookie Betts on waivers or whatever you have, or cut him, make sure that whoever did that, and it may only be a couple of people. Good morning to Phil. Good morning to King Hap, SP fan. Make sure that that player is able to reverse the move. Will you please? And if you don't believe me, ask White Sox Al and Ray K. So, wow, we have a jam-packed studio this morning, and we thank you all. Leonard Donaldson is here, and now let's begin, because this is really unbelievable. The future of daily fantasy sports, which is regulated, is very much in jeopardy in New York. The New York Supreme Court on Thursday upheld a decision from some justice in 2018 who said DFS is unconstitutional. In his 2018 decision, the judge held that the state unlawfully expanded gambling in 2016 because they classified the daily fantasy sports game as skill. Now, that's what was said. And if you remember, a couple of years ago, 2016, I believe, daily fantasy sports in New York was clearly identified as skill. Now, before I continue, let me say this. I am not against daily fantasy sports. I absolutely enjoy it. We play it in Tout Wars. I love the format, and we promote it and all that kind of stuff. But I will tell you, what I didn't like is the people who were pushing it down our throats. But now, and I think it's just, it is, look, say what you want. I'm not going to even put my 2 cents in because it's not about me. But lawmakers in New York, okay, are not free to expand gambling as they see it. That's per the state constitution. Any such expansion must have gone through the ballot box for voter approval. All right? And that's how commercial casinos became legal in 2013. So after years of litigation against daily fantasy sports operators serving New York, the legislature finally legalized what it calls interactive fantasy sports in 2016. And rather than sending the law to voters, okay, lawmakers instead carved out an existing gambling provision, and it is by law a game of skill in New York. Okay, that's what it's been, and now it's being taken under different considerations. The meaning of gambling, merely because the legislature says it is so now, that's what the IFS constitutes. So there's nothing that's been done yet. Right now, as a matter of fact, right now, you take the position. There's a lot to really, get through to this. The state will undoubtedly appeal the right to the New York Court of Appeals based upon it's a constitutional question. It will get an automatic stay of the order, and DFS can continue in New York for now. The future, though, is much less certain. So what does that mean? I don't know. Somebody, what do you think that means? Certainly to be outlawed in New York with daily fantasy and Major League Baseball and basketball and all the sports getting behind it. We'll see what happens, okay? I do believe, I really do believe that with gambling becoming legal across the country, that it will eventually come back to New York. But just for now, there's a little obstacle in the way. And it probably is nothing more than a little obstacle. It can be overcome. Statements had to be made. So what do we really expect going forward? Wow. It's still business as usual for DraftKings and FanDuel for now. FanDuel offered a statement saying that they expect that there will be an appeal and will be able to continue to offer the contests that they've offered. DraftKings did not immediately comment. They both have deals in place to provide sports betting in New York and run retail sports books, okay, for a pair of upstate casinos, and it's going to be tough. So the New York court appeal, the appellate court ruled Thursday that online fantasy sports betting constitutes illegal gambling. And that upholds a lower court ruling that 2016, allowing it violated the state's constitution. So it's a new challenge, and we'll see how it affects so many different parts. The name of the game, with the legalized gambling coming out and all that stuff, it's become a huge part. It's become a huge part of fantasy sports. And just a huge part of our lives now, you know, with the gambling being all over the place, and it's really okay, but I guess it just has to be done in a proper way. All right, anybody in the chat room have any comments on what we're talking about? Okay, so there you go. It's called gambling has always been regulated. It's regulated in New York. Yeah, J.R. Matz is here from the great state of Cincinnati, and why not with the Cincinnati Reds? Southpaw has joined us. The Cincinnati Reds arguably having just about the best offseason in Major League Baseball. Now, don't forget, Sunday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 888-963-2682. That's our phone number if you care to call in on Sirius 210, XM87, okay? We'll be on Sunday morning, and we'd love to have you aboard, okay? There you go. Some will get paid in DFS and love it. There you go. All right, let's go on to a little bit of the Mookie Betts. As I said, if somebody has Mookie Betts in an only league, it's been more than 24 hours since the Red Sox agreed in principle to a blockbuster, that three-team deal with the Dodgers and the Twins, with Bruce Starr Graterol. We talked about him yesterday. And according to the report all the reports that are coming out, the Red Sox review of the 21-year-old's medical records led the team to conclude that it's less likely than anticipated to project him as a starting pitcher, and shame on the Red Sox for not doing their homework. That's what it appears to say. We will take the position now that we have heard this morning that it may not happen. This thing actually may not happen. So talks between the Twins and the Red Sox to resolve their differences over the value of Bruce Starr Graterol going slowly. That's as a result. That's what I hear from the Athletic and Rosenthal. Another factor in the holdup of the trade announcements has been that Jock Peterson's arbitration hearing is today. Now, I don't really think that means anything, but Peterson is part of a separate deal from the Dodgers to the Angels. He wanted $9.5 million. LA offered $7.75. So the decision would likely come within 24 hours of the hearing's conclusion. That's the hold up on the Jock Peterson Ross Stripling trade. That's to the Angels, and it's all one deal. It's all one deal. It's a three-way deal, all contingent on everything happening. Here's a trivia question for you. Let's throw this out to the chat room. Name the players in 2019. Name the player who reached base safely 3 or more times in one game. Name the player who reached 3 or more times in one game, the most times in 2019. Could you name that player? Anybody want to give that a shot? Okay. Chris Bryant. Now, rumors are out. Super Bowl's over. The NBA trade deadline, I believe, has passed. The Phillies are packing their equipment, and every year the Phillies, they signed the Bryce Harper. It hasn't been the same since then. But the Phillies are now making a pitch for Chris Bryant, and top Phillies prospect Spencer Howard who's expected to be ready. Okay, is the chip that the Chicago Cubs want. The Cubs are open to trading third baseman Chris Bryant. He could be a difference maker in the National League East. Remember, Rendon left D.C. Josh Donaldson no longer plays in Atlanta. The Mets intend to use Jeff McNeil at third, but they'd prefer him to be they would prefer him to be a utility man. And the Phillies. Now, they love their top prospect, Alex Bohm, but there are a lot of questions about his defense. And while they wait for Bohm to graduate from AAA, Scott Kingery looks like he's going to be the opening day third baseman for Philadelphia, okay? He looks like he's going to be the opening day third baseman for Philadelphia. So, Bryant makes sense, right? He really does. Bryant makes sense to go to Philadelphia. Almost a perfect fit with Bryce Harper. And while the luxury tax could be a bit of a hurdle in the Bryant to the Phillies talks, the biggest obstacle would be if the Cubs insist on getting Spencer Howard. And right now, that seems to be the situation. The Cubs insist on Spencer Howard, who's a pretty good Outlaw Seal is here. Good morning. Haven't seen you in a while, Mal Pal. Good to see Outlaw Seal back in the chat room with Doug Boyle. Don't forget, Doug will be on Saturday. Big Al. Beer Man is here. Hey, Beer here. Big Al. How's your flu doing, kid? Donkey Yoki. Great turnout, everybody, this morning. I love you all. So DFS having trouble in New York, with New York now saying that daily fantasy sports is considered gambling, and it was not voted by the New York population. Worst case scenario is that have a vote, and it'll be right back in the ballgame. Okay, so there you go. That's my opinion right there. Okay, and don't forget the draft guide. It's a fantastic. Andy, please put a. Oh, you're back on Long Island. Oh, Outlaw Seal is back on Long Island. Give me a call. Okay, give me a call. Here's my phone number. If anybody has any fantasy baseball questions and you want to get in touch just to knock things around, 516-353-6375. It's a line that's dedicated if you want to just talk about your stuff. And, okay. Yeah, I was with that Joe Pisapia's got a nice little audience as Andy's in the chat room talking about boobs. Okay, very good. All right, now let's get back to Chris Bryant to Philadelphia, which it's a possibility. I don't say it's going to happen, but there's been a lot of consideration to it, and we always try to get ahead of the game, right? The luxury tax is a hurdle. Biggest obstacle is Spencer Howard. And that's what trading Bryant now makes sense if the Cubs land controllable pitching. All right. The starting pitching, however, is the Phillies' biggest need. All right.